adrenaline.
Okay. I understand.
All right. Good morning. Good morning to everybody. Happy Resurrection Day. Happy Resurrection Day to everybody. Come on in. Come on into the room, man. If you are here today, I know you're supposed to be here. All right. We're going to give it some time for people to come on in. Jay, can I see people joining as they come into the chat? Okay, let me look up too. All right. Come on in. Good morning, everybody. Happy Resurrection Day. Yeah. Listen, you hear this music that's playing right now? That is J Love. Listen, that's the beat, huh? To come in to
It's been a long
Resurrection
time
Day.
coming,
Been a long time coming. Hmm,
long road that I'm running. They
come on.
can't take it from me. I done put
Come
that
on
work
into.
in. They tryna play me like a dummy.
Hmm.
It always be the
Good morning,
ones you
everybody.
ain't think gon' switch on you.
Happy Resurrection Day.
They
Thank you, Jay.
ain't
That's
loyal,
whew, that's hot. That's
they
Kiana,
ain't
y'all.
friends.
Let's give her
They
credit.
tryna
That's
take what's
Kiana. That's J Love's daughter.
mine. I still win.
Let me let that play for a minute.
Yea, though I walk through the valley, the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. That rod and that staff, they comfort me.
Yeah, that's hot.
That rod and that staff, they comfort me.
All right, Jay, you better cut that up before
Try
I
me if
ask
you
you to play it
wanna
during the whole
cover.
show.
By the grace of God, glory to
Yeah.
the King. Glory be to the King.
Happy
For God
Resurrection
so
Day,
loved the
everybody.
world, he gave his son. God so loved the world, he gave his son. Whosoever believeth in him shall not perish,
Woo!
but
Man, I could listen to that all morning. Come on in.
whosoever
Happy
believeth in
Resurrection
him
Day
shall
to
not
everybody that's
perish.
here this morning. As I said before, I know if you are here today, you are supposed to be here because this is Resurrection Day, right? This is Easter. And I know some people, I don't know how many people are going to be on today, but I know some people done went to their mama's church today. Some people went to their grandmama's church today. Some people done went to a church they ain't been to since last Easter. Well, they put their suits on, they new dresses on. There's going to be some colorful congregations up in here. I know in Detroit and Atlanta, man, we are celebrating Easter, celebrating Resurrection Day. And so, listen, we're so grateful that you're here this morning. Um, yeah, this is virtual space. You ain't got to worry about no church parking lots this morning. Church parking lots gonna be full,
On jam.
your own jam. I hope you made some reservations, and I hope y'all going to church. I hope y'all are on time so you can find you a parking space. I hope you made reservations for brunch because it's gonna be tight. And so we're gonna celebrate this morning and try not to spend too much time because I know this is Easter. Now people have plans and whatever the message is today. I want everybody to put it to work. It's not about being in the service, but it's about making a life of service and taking these messages and making them practical when you leave here. So thank you for being here. As I said, you could be anywhere this morning. We're so grateful for your presence, not just this Sunday, but for 27 years. And so we just are so thankful that you can join us this morning on this Resurrection Sunday. Listen, we are transforming love community. This is transforming love community. I think if there's any holiday, right? If there's any holiday that transforming love community aligns with best, I think it's Resurrection Day. I
Mm-hmm.
think it's Easter because we're all about transformation. We're all about transmutation. We're all about becoming new. We're all about leaving the old behind. So this is where we're at, and this is what we do, and this is what we make a practice of. So I really think we're right on time, y'all. So thank you for joining. I don't see who's on here already. I must someone holler out some names. Welcome to the space. Good morning. Grand Rising. Um, even if it's cloudy, you know, where you are, the sun is out. The sun is out here in Atlanta, and I'm just so grateful for that. It's a beautiful day. I'm just going to declare that whatever the weather is like where you're at, it's going to be a beautiful day, right? It's going to be a day of resurrection and a day of new life and a day of contemplation, interrogation, all those things. So thank you. I'm just going to affirm that right now. Our theme this month, our theme this month has been all month, right? Breaking chains and lifting veils. Breaking chains and lifting veils. That's what we need to continue to do. That's our theme all month. And so in the month of April, you've heard Rev come on and talk about breaking the spell of scarcity on April 6th. And then she came back last week and talked about cross it out. Just cross it out and cross over. Cross it out and cross over this week, today, I'll talk about the crown, the cross, and the resurrected Christ. And next week, Rev will continue this theme of breaking chains and lifting veils. And speaking of Rev, wherever she is, we just say, we love you, we honor you, we celebrate you. Don't know if you're on here this morning, but wherever you are, we know God is wherever you are, whatever state you're in, state of mind, state in the United States, God is there. We're there with you too. So we just love you. And so speaking of transformation, resurrection, you know, everything we do at TLC is geared toward that, to with that end in mind. And so we got a few announcements. And so I'm going to do these. I'm going to also ask that you stay until the end to see these announcements again. All right. So you know, on Mondays we have Soak Mondays. Danny is doing Soak Mondays. All right, where we meet with God in music and prose. And so we're so thankful for Danny for being consistent on that. You see the number for the prayer line and the passcode. Join us tomorrow, and let's stay in this space and stay in this energy. And certainly, it's a good way to start off the week with Reverend Danny Stillwell and Soap Mondays. Thank you, Jay. All right, we're going to continue the theme, breaking chains and lifting veils. Rev will be with us next week. It's been such a pleasure to join her. Always a pleasure to join with her in these themes and be in the space. And so this is what we're all about. We're going to continue to break change and lift some veils, and we're going to continue to do that today. Thank you, Jay, and thank you, Rev, for always trusting me enough to stand in your stead and be here and give a message to the people that you love and the people that we love. Next month, the wonder working power, the wonder working power. You know, May is the month of power. And so we got, look, we're so blessed to have ministers who can come and give this word and give the truth. And all of them are dynamic in their own way. So you see Reverend Dr. Shahira Stevens, you see Reverend Danny Stillwell, Reverend Kendrick Tour, Reverend Royce Thompson. That proves to be a powerful and impactful month. Listen, I know all of them personally. You know them personally. And I'm telling you, you want to be present for that. So we're looking forward to May, the wonder working power during the month of power. So join us on YouTube, Facebook, Transforming Love's page, and Rev's page as well. All right. And so then we have we have our class starting up, and we're going to study from the power of the spoken word by Florence Scovel Shinn. Power of the spoken words. Many of you know this book already, but it is important for us to always revisit these truths, revisit these practices, so we can stay where we need to stay. And so, as you can see, that the orientation for the class will be next week, next Tuesday on April 29th. And that's the class orientation. And the class will actually start May 6th through June 2nd. Get the book. And if you haven't got the books, let someone know. And if you can't get it, let someone at TLC know. We'll make sure you get that book. But get it for yourself. You still got time. The power of the spoken words. You can see the class time will be 7 to 8:30. And there's the Zoom ID and the passcode. If you don't write this down, remember to just go to the website and get all this information again. And so that's a powerful class. We're going to do some teaching on those Tuesdays. So join us starting on April 29th. All right. And then that concludes our announcements. Stay to the end, please, so you can really take advantage of everything that we're offering and see that again, and see those announcements again. I'm going to ask that right now that we just kind of quiet ourselves down um, as we come into this message of resurrection. As we come into this message yeah, wherever you are, let's just close our eyes for a minute, set our feet on the floor. Feel the energy come into our bodies. Know that you are connected with everybody who is on your side of this message, and even those who aren't. And so, God, we give thanks for everybody's presence. We give thanks for the journey. We give thanks for the journey. I'm going to say that 3 times. We give thanks for the journey to transformation. And so we know right now that we are connected with everybody who's on this call. There is no separation, regardless of what state you're in, regardless of how you're coming in, whether you're coming in Facebook or YouTube, God, that you transcend all of those things and your spirit unites. And so we just thank you for that truth. We thank you. And we open ourselves up and become empty, allowing your truth and your word to permeate our bodies and our minds and our souls, and so that we leave this place a little bit more evolved, a little bit higher than we were when we came in. This is our intention. This is our prayer. So we thank you. And those who are not here, we thank you for the families represented here today. We thank you for the roles that everyone played in our lives to bring us right here to this moment. We just so grateful for everything, God. Now, God, I ask that you bless me as I give this message, that you make me empty right now, and that the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable in your sight. Oh Lord, my strength, Redeemer. Amen. Saying so it is. Fam, I don't want to take up a lot of time. You know, I always say that, but we're gonna let God do what he do what he does, and do what she does. We're talking about the crown, the cross, and the resurrected Christ today. The crown, the cross, and the resurrected Christ. And I'm going to start with the scripture, familiar scripture found in John 11, the 25th and 26th verse. And we'll revisit this again at the end of the message. Jesus says, I am the resurrection and the life. Whoever believes in me, though he die, yet shall he live. And everyone who lives and believes in me shall never die. Now, I'm going to say that last part again. Everyone who lives and believes in me shall never die. So this morning, I want to talk about our journey. I want to use the symbols and the message of Resurrection Day and Easter to invite us to look at our own journeys. I think too often when we think about the journey of the journey of Yeshua, Jesus and Yeshua. We use the terms of Yeshua, so you'll hear me use that interchangeably today. But too often, I think we mourn the experience, we grieve the experience of Jesus's journey to the cross sometimes, and we often take it as if it's an experience only particular to him, that's only particular to Jesus. And so we celebrate and we do all those things, and we our emotions have us grieving and mourning. And particularly if we look at movies and we look at things about his experience, and certainly we can feel all that. But oftentimes we think it's in a journey that's only particular to him, and sometimes we can live vicariously through that experience. You know, we feel all those emotions, and and rightfully so, right? We feel the emotions of someone who would lay down their life or sacrifice their life and love us enough to do that, and that's a great love for sure. Let's just say that that is a great love. There's nothing greater than someone who would lay down their life for you, lay down their life for truth, to love you enough to do that. That is a great love. But as much as we cry, as much as we grieve sometimes, that journey, We often leave Jesus alone to experience it all by himself, not fully accepting that it is a shared journey, that this is a shared journey. Because you and I, it is certainly true for me, and I know it's true for you. We will never become what we need to become if we hold Jesus as the only one who has experienced that, instead of one who demonstrated what we can do, who demonstrated what we must do, who demonstrated our journey. So that means it's a shared journey that we must travel as well. So this morning, I don't want to just talk about the journey of Jesus solely, because I know every place, many places around the country and the world who are celebrating Easter and celebrating Resurrection Day are celebrating the journey of Jesus solely, and talking about that and talking about what happened on the third day and all that and resurrection. And that's all good. But today I want to talk about your journey. I want to talk about my journey. I want to talk about our journey, because if we don't let these lessons become practical in our living, then we'll find ourselves back here next Easter saying the same thing. And so I don't know about you. I'm not so much into holidays, particular holidays, and celebrating something on a particular day and waiting to the next year and doing the same thing. We have to make these lessons real in our everyday lives. And that ain't easy. It ain't easy, y'all. The journey ain't easy. And so when I hear people saying, when you hear people say for years, the price has already been paid, or they say it's a finished work, I think we all have to be careful and not use those thoughts to absolve ourselves from the work that we have to do. Yes, the price has been paid. Yes, it's a finished work, but that is a demonstration. And so it cannot absolve us from the work we have to do. This is why I love TLC. This is why I love Transforming Love Community, because for 27 years, and probably before that, we've been doing the work. We are about doing the work. I, the older I get, I am just inspired by the words of my mentor, who really brought me into ministry almost 30 years ago. My mentor from Detroit, Dr. Frederick G. Sampson. Many of you all know him. And the older I get, his lessons and his words just inspire me even more. He used to say this all the time. He used to say, God loves you just the way you are, but loves you enough to not want you to stay that way. I'll say it again. God loves you just the way you are, but loves you enough to not want you to stay that way, meaning that God calls us to continue to evolve. Yes, we are loved just the way we are right now, but we have to continue to evolve. We have to continue to grow. We have to continue to ascend. So let's talk about the journey, the crown, the cross, and the resurrected Christ. Now, the crown, many of us know that a crown is a symbol of glory, right? It's a symbol of royalty. It's a symbol of power. It's a symbol of leadership, right? It's used to, when someone puts a crown on someone's head, you think of the king or the queen. You think of that because it imparts honor, it imparts splendor. It really, metaphysically, it represents the highest state or quality. Right, right. The crown of eternal life is the prize for all who overcome. I'm talking about metaphysically now, who overcome the carnal mind. Right? That's what we're talking about, the crown for those who overcome the carnal mind. And that takes some work. I want to acknowledge that takes some work. And I've I've learned, fam, that you cannot overcome the carnal mind without the thorns that crucify the small self. So when you talk about the crown of thorns that was placed on Jesus's head, yes, he suffered. Yes, all of those things. But I want you to know he came for that purpose. That's what he came for. He came for that purpose. And it tells us that you cannot overcome the carnal mind without the thorns that crucify the small self, because you have to be crucified. Your ego has to be crucified, because we often want the rewards of resurrection without the pains of crucifixion. The rewards of resurrection without the pains that come with crucifixion. And I know it is possible for someone to live their whole lives trying to avoid, or even trying to hide the thorns that God can use for our transformation. You can't hide. You can't hide anymore, because God cannot even use the thorns until you expose them to the light. God cannot use your thorns until you expose them to the light. And one thing I've learned, and I know some of you are learning, I know I'm speaking to somebody right now, that if you are stubborn and don't want to do that, sometimes God will expose that for you, and that's very painful. That's very painful. So you really have to be totally surrendered. You have to be totally vulnerable. You have to be totally transparent, because the thorns are what are used to crucify your ego, to crucify your small thoughts, to crucify what we call your stinking thinking, to crucify all that. So you have to be willing to be exposed. You have to be willing to bear the false accusations. You have to be vulnerable. You have to be willing to show your weaknesses. Because in the experience, when we look at the experience of Yeshua, he could not hide, and we can't hide either. He was fully exposed to the elements, but we can't be fearful of being exposed, fam. Because there is no weapon formed that can ever prosper against us. And the only reason we think they can is because we're hiding something, but you can't hide anymore. You can't, when you don't hide anymore, no one can do anything to you. No one can say anything to you. You can't hide, you have to be exposed. And so you wear the crown, yes, the crown of glory, because you know when the soldiers put that crown of thorns on Jesus, they, you know, their intention was to mock him, to make fun of him, to laugh at him, and all those things. But you know what God, what man means for bad, God always means for good. So Jesus knew the journey he had to take. Jesus knew the crown that he had to wear, and he was demonstrating to us how we have to kill, how we have to crucify the small self. So wear the crown, wear the crown. And I know it's challenging, and it's challenging in this society because we live in a feel-good society, you know, and sometimes satisfying the ego needs is a priority. And so it can be really difficult to wear in the crown, because you have to pay the price to wear the crown. You have to pay the price. And a lot of people in leadership positions, we know, we can just look around. We don't have to name any names. We're not going to go there this morning, but we know a lot of folks in leadership positions haven't paid their dues. Haven't paid their dues. And if the journey of Jesus teaches us anything, it teaches us that there's no shortcuts to salvation. There's no shortcuts to salvation, fam. You have to walk through the valley. You can't walk around it. You can't walk under it. You have to walk through the valley. And you heard that song by Kiana, walk through the valley of the shadow of death, but God is with you. You have to walk through it. And we have to have patience, fam. We have to have patience. And that is something that comes with age. I've learned that. When I was 20 years old, I wanted things fast. When I was 25, I wanted it fast. When I was 19, I wanted it fast. Some people want these things fast. They want fast cars, fast money, fast salvation. In this society we're living in now, in this culture we're living in now, you know, everything can be thwarted by technology. We got AI, we got all these things. You know, we got all these things to make things fast. And I think sometimes people want salvation to come really fast, but you got to travel the journey, baby. You got to travel the journey. You got to go through the journey. And I'll tell you what, if your salvation was a book, you can't just read the first and the last chapter. You got to read the whole book to get the full message. You got to read the whole book to let it resonate inside. You can't just read the first and the last chapter. You can't be impatient to want to get the things and the rewards of resurrection without going through the journey. And another thing that makes it difficult is we live in a society and a culture of consumerism. And there's also Christian consumerism. We think we can purchase salvation. We think we can give enough money. You can't give enough money. We think we can purchase it. And still today we see preachers and people ask you to give money, do all this, and as if you can purchase salvation. There's nothing with giving. In fact, at the end of the message, we're going to ask you to continue to give, but not just give because so we can have that, but to give so you can get back. So you can get back. And knowing that what you give is not, you're not trying to purchase salvation, because listen, you have to lay yourself bare for salvation. You have to lay yourself bare for salvation. And that's the lesson that we need to learn, not just today, but as we go forward. Right. And I know there's some people for those who are still asleep, for those who are asleep, and those they people like me, people like you who want justice, will still a thorn in the side of people who don't. We're thorn in the side of people who still want power, who still want greed, who still want that, who still want supremacy. We're thorn in their side. But hey, listen. We have to continue to be who we're going to be, And sometimes for those people, rather than interrogate and look at the thorn, interrogate the thorn, find the meaning of the thorn, ask the thorn, hey, what are you here to teach me? They rather just erase the thorn and get rid of it. But erasing the thorn doesn't speed up your salvation, doesn't add to your salvation. If you just erase the thorn, you got to look at it, you got to interrogate it, you got to overcome it, you got to transcend it. But you can't do that without looking at it, fam. Because every time, think about your life, fam. Every time you think you're erasing the thorn, right? You think you're erasing the thorn, is leaving the imprint of what was originally written. It's leaving an imprint. And so if someone is writing something, and you try to erase it, no, you can't erase it. You might be gone, but the imprint of it is still left. So you can't erase the thorn. You can't go around it. The imprint of it is still left, and you can't get around it until you crucify it. And so let me tell you what the real meaning, the metaphysical meaning of the crown, why that crown of thorns was placed on Jesus's head. Why? Because it represents the crown chakra. It represents the crown chakra, and the thorns represent the need to bring our thoughts, our thinking, our mental thinking, all that intellectual stuff into cessation, to cease it, to allow for the dawn of higher consciousness. That's what the thorns represent, because you have to cease your thinking mind, your intellectual mind. We know that your education will never substitute for your transformation. You can think all you want, you can get all degrees you want, you can get all the letters you want, but it will never be a substitute for your transformation. In fact, it might make you live by your thinking mind. And so the thorns help us to cease the thinking, the overthinking, and the overthinking again, so you can move into higher consciousness. That's why it's placed on Jesus' head, because then you know what? Then the portal of higher consciousness is open, which comes through your head. When higher consciousness downloads new information, it comes through the top of the crown chakra. And so you have to crucify something for that to come in, through the crown chakra. And so that's a lesson for us. That is a lesson for us. So that's why you see that crown of thorns on Jesus' head. That's why you've had the crown of thorns on your head, to cease that thinking so you can allow higher consciousness to come in. And that's a daily work, fam. That's a daily work. Paul said, I die daily. And I'm going to tell you, that is a daily work to stay in that space. So let's talk about the cross, fam. Let's talk about the cross for a minute, because there's an intersection on that cross. And the cross is the place where you endure the final crossing out of the ego mind. You understand, when you look at that story of Yeshua traveling that journey, he traveled that journey with that cross of thorn on his head. And that whole journey, during that whole journey, that cross of thorns was on there. And then on the cross is the place where the final crossing out. Now, Rev talked about crossing out and crossing over. It's the final place where you cross out the ego mind. It is the intersection, right? It is the intersection of the divine and the human. That's what the cross represents, the intersection of the divine and the human, the spiritual and the physical, if you will. There's a vertical bar and there's a horizontal bar. The vertical bar symbolizes the limitless nature of the divine, right? Spirit is limitless. It represents that. Then the horizontal bar is represents human limitation. There's human limitation, and those two meet to intersect to set the conditions for the final crossing out of the ego. The final crossing out of the ego, right? That's where it happens. That intersection right there, and that's where transformation often takes place. So I want to talk about limitlessness and being limited for a minute because I do want to speak to our experiences. I do want to speak to our everyday and practical experiences, fam. So because the cross is that symbol of the intersection of the physical and the spiritual, um, sometimes there we have some not only some trepidation but some anxiety at that intersection,
Mm.
some burnout at that intersection. You know why burnout takes place, fam? Oftentimes, because burnout arises as our places of work, right? The finite container of capitalism and imperialism and chasing greed and external stuff. Burnout arises because the finite container of human limitations, right, which is our places of work or all that, it often asks for an unlimited supply of our energy.
Mm.
But unlimitedless or limitlessness only exists in spirit because sometimes it asks for an unlimited supply of our energy, an unlimited supply of our thought, an unlimited supply of our time, an unlimited supply of our physical energies. And oftentimes we're trying to work in a finite container and be limitless in a finite container, but we can't because it is a finite container. Limitlessness is only found in spirit.
Yeah.
And so when you have that intersection, sometimes and sometimes you're confused, you don't know what's happening. Sometimes it's burnout because it's calling for one thing when we need to live in spirit. And we need to transcend. But I understand that we have to be there. We have to be at our jobs. We have to do our work. We have to do that to make a living. What this calls for is we have to have more practices and have more practice for ourselves to keep us in the spirit. To understand that we are not our jobs,
Mm.
that we are not what we get up and do every day from Monday through Friday. And so that we are not our 9 to 5, that we are not that. And the only way we can do that is have practices to stay in the limitless supply of spirit.
Mm. Mm. Mm.
So we have to look at what the world calls for and who we are and who we're called to be. And you can't operate in one space trying to be something in another and trying to be something that you're not called to be in that space. So we have to stay aware, we have to stay awake of what we're doing and not allow ourselves to become what someone else wants us to become,
Mm.
to do that. Because limitlessness can only be experienced in spirit. Those of us who are transforming, those of us who are evolving, I had conversation with Rev the other day. There's a freedom, there's a liberation in feeling this limitlessness, the limitless, that you're limitless.
Mm.
Because it can only be experienced in spirit. It can only be experienced when you come to recognize yourself as spirit. When you crucify all that ego stuff, when you crucify all that human stuff. So Rev asked a week or two ago, she says, what are you nailing to the cross?
Mm.
What are you nailing to the cross? Because see, once you crucify it for good, fam, you can take yourself off the cross.
Mm.
Once you crucify it for good, you can release it and become empty. And I'm saying, fam, once you release it for good, and I want you to pay attention to that part that says for good.
Good.
Once you release it for good and become empty, because To the degree that people keep Jesus on the cross, we stay on the cross right with them. I say it again, to the degree that people keep Jesus on the cross, we stay on the cross right with them. Some of us have had things nailed to the cross for years. The same thing, nailed to the cross. And sometimes we grieve and sometimes we mourn because we think what was nailed to the cross is gone forever, but it arises again in our lives because we haven't crucified it for good. We haven't crucified all of it. And that's all right with grace. You can crucify it again, but I don't want to keep crucifying the same thing over and over and over. Because just because you nailed something to the cross doesn't mean you crucified it. You can nail it to the cross, but it might not be crucified. And so we find ourselves sometimes have to crucify again and again and again and again the same thing. And so we have to crucify that good. We have to learn, crucify for good. We have to learn to leave it behind. Fam, we have to learn to leave it behind until we become empty. Until we become empty, we can't be used. Just like a cup, fam, our usefulness to God is based on our emptiness. A cup ain't useful if it ain't empty. I'm not going to pour something in the cup that's already, I have to empty my cup in order to be used by God. And so this idea of the crucifixion and the cross and the journey is to empty ourselves of the carnal mind, to empty ourselves of all that. And I know one thing I've learned, fam, and I'm learning right now, is that there are some people who want you to stay nailed to the cross.
Come on now.
Yeah. There are some people who want you to stay nailed to the cross.
They're invested.
Yeah, they're invested in it. You know why? Because even maybe they haven't forgiven. Perhaps it's more comfortable for them to see you nailed to the cross, staying up on that cross. Perhaps it's because the possibility of your resurrection shines a light on them. A light that they're not ready for yet.
Yeah.
And so they want to keep you on the cross. Hey, listen, fam, I know that for sure. I know that there are some people that I have come up with and grown up with and have been friends and shared space with who want to see me on that, staying on the cross. They want to see me be the same person I've always been 30 years ago. They want to see me being silly. They want to see me being drunk. They want to see me being that. They want to see me doing all this foolishness. They want to keep me on the cross because it makes them feel good about themselves.
Yes.
Yeah. I know this. I live this. And so do you. But you know what? You can leave them to their own devices. Leave them to their own devices. And stop being disappointed from expecting a resurrection response from someone who hasn't even taken their cross up yet. So you can't expect someone to love you. You can't expect someone to accept you. You can't expect someone to embrace you. You can't expect someone to have a resurrection response if they haven't even taken up their own cross yet. If they haven't even acknowledged their own thorns yet, let alone surrender to them. Because you can't force anyone else to be resurrected. I don't care how much you love them. I don't care how much you like them. I don't care how long you've known them. I don't care how good the sex is. You can't force anyone to be resurrected. You can't love them enough. You can't be kind to them enough. You can't be polite enough. You can't be accommodating enough. Because this is about your journey. So we have to stop expecting these type of ascended responses from someone who ain't even traveled the journey yet, who ain't even interested in traveling the journey yet. I was at a workshop last week, and well, it was really applied learning space. I don't even want to call it a workshop. I don't even want to call it a journey. It was a retreat. It was applied learning space, and it was given by a group called Collective Acceleration. Look them up when you get time. And Norma Wong presented. Oh, it was a great week. It was a great applied learning space, and it came right at the right time, right? Doing what we call Holy Week, because I was able to crucify some more things, fam. I was able to crucify some more things. And she said something that really struck me, and I wrote down. She said, oftentimes we mourn, we mourn what we think we achieved, but we haven't achieved yet. It becomes clear that we haven't achieved it yet. Let me give you some practical examples. Practical examples. And I have to use this as a practical example just because it's one that comes to mind, and I don't want to get political. I don't want to get political over here. And when you look at these times that we're in now, sometimes when someone's elected who we feel comfortable with, we think we achieved something. Sometimes when we elected Barack Obama, or when people or other people stand up for Black Lives Matter, and we see this people around the world standing for Black Lives Matter and preaching and marching and supporting all that, and now we see the times we're in now, and sometimes people are mourning. They are sad because we thought we achieved something we haven't achieved yet. Because you know why? Because whatever we have here, we still need to nail some things to the cross as a country. We still need to crucify some things as a country. And we thought we achieved some things. And so we're mourning because we thought we achieved it, but we thought it turns out that we haven't fully crucified it. And so we have to continue to do the work to crucify those things. And we do it not only as individuals, we have to do it collectively. We have to do it as a country. We have to crucify racism. We have to crucify ableism. We have to crucify all those things. We have to crucify, but we have to crucify it in ourselves first. And if it ain't crucified in ourselves or in the collective society, it's going to rise again. We mourn what we think we achieved, but we haven't achieved yet. So we're mourning. That's okay, because God is still there in our mourning too. And we continue to crucify ourselves. So we continue to do the work, fam. We continue to do the work. So I don't force nobody. I don't force anybody anymore. I'm not forcing anybody to be awake. I'm not forcing anybody to carry their cross. I'm not forcing. If they ain't ready, they ain't ready. And I'll tell you what, fam. When you crucify the need to be accepted, when you crucify the need to people please, when you crucify your life, you'll be a lot better. You won't be trying to force anybody to do anything, because now is the time to be clear, to be fully persuaded in your own mind of your own resurrection, and knowing that the crucifixion, the cross, is not an ending, but it's a new beginning. It's a new beginning. It's a new life for you. And you cannot experience the resurrection if you're afraid to die. That's the demonstration. That's the demonstration that Jesus showed us. You can't experience it if you are afraid to die. So I ain't forcing nobody. I'm not forcing nobody to be awake who's clearly still asleep, because they want to be asleep. If me and Erica decided to be somewhere, and Erica's trying to wake me up and I'm clearly still asleep, Erica gonna have to go on and leave by herself, because I don't want to wake up. It ain't her job to continue to shake me and wake me up. She wasting energy trying to wake me up when clearly I don't want to wake up. So it ain't your job to wake somebody up. So I'm through with fighting. I'm through with struggling. I'm through with protesting. I'm living. I'm putting my energy right here where it needs to be, in new life.
Yes.
And people who want to experience new life. That's where my energy is. That's where my lane is.
Yeah, come on.
That's where my stream of consciousness is. That's where I want to be. I'm not fighting anybody. You know, when I was thinking about this idea of transformation, and I thought about my mother, and I thought about being primary caregiver for my mother in 2008. And I remember at that time where she had to go into hospice, and hospice, man, those are like angels, man. You all know that. Many of you all know that. I love hospice. They they were so impactful. I thought about becoming a hospice worker myself after she passed away. I just hold them so dear. But the hospice worker told me, she said, hey, she looked at my mother and she saw where she was and what state she was in. He said, this is what you're going to experience, Spence. This is what you're going to start to experience. You're going to see this in your mother, and you're going to see that in your mother, and then you're going to see her do this, and then you're going to see this. And lo and behold, didn't I see that on the way to her transition? I saw exactly what the hospice worker told me I was going to see in my mother. And one of the things she told me, and she said, a day or two before her transition, you're going to see her being very happy, very jovial, and it's going to shock you because she hadn't been that way. But she's going to be happy and jovial. She's going to be celebrating something, and you're going to think your mother in the human sense is rising up and getting better, so to speak. But Spence, I want you to know that's part of the journey. And so when I thought about that fair, and I thought about her being happy, when I thought about her being jovial, when I thought about her being celebrating and laughing and talking, and us being so surprised, I said, my mother must have had a glimpse of heaven. She had a glimpse of what she was getting ready to become. She was happy. She had let go. She had released me and my brother. She had released everybody in her life. She had released everything that she had been worried about and had ulcers about. She released all those things. She had happy. She had gone to the mountaintop and seen a glimpse of what she was going to become. And so she was happy that day. She was happy. And so she was getting ready for her transition. And lo and behold, 1 or 2 days later, she transitioned and she crossed over. She crossed over, but she knew what she was going to be experiencing and who she was going to be. She was happy about what she was going to become. We were left grieving, of course, because we missed her, but she was celebrating. And I believe whether the hospice worker knew what was happening spiritually or not, that is what was happening inside of my mother, that she knew. She knew that the final nail had been in for a crucifixion, that she was going to become eternal in that moment. And she knew that she was going to resurrect. Let me say this, fam. When you talk about the resurrection, the man Jesus was crucified, but the fullness of Christ was resurrected. I said the man Jesus was crucified, but the fullness of Christ was resurrected. The fullness of Christ in him. He became liberated from his container. You understand? We're all walking around in these containers, judging each other based on containers, confined to these containers. But he became liberated from his container. He couldn't be contained in the box, so to speak. He could not be contained. And because he demonstrated that, he demonstrated for us how to live outside of the box, literally and figuratively. He was liberated from the box. When they rolled back the tomb and he wasn't there, they say he's not here anymore. And the box he was in, he was gone because he couldn't be kept in the box, fam. He couldn't be kept in the tomb, fam. He couldn't be kept in the grave, fam. And neither can you. You're liberated from your box of religion, your box of politics, your box of the law, your box of expectations of others. You're liberated from that box. You're free. You're liberated. You're resurrected. Never to go back. We have to keep practicing resurrection every day, and move into the slipstream of Christ consciousness. Now, I'm going to talk about the slipstream for a minute because I just came from an applied learning space where we talked about the slipstream. You know what a slipstream is, fam? If you look up the term slipstream, it's almost like a current of energy that's created by something that goes before it. So let's look at a plane. Let's look at a boat. So as the velocity of the plane goes, right, behind it, it creates a slipstream. And so people who get into that stream can just flow in the same stream of energy that it's already in because it's created the stream. And so once you get into it, you travel at the same velocity, but you don't have to fight. You don't have to do anything. The stream is created for you just to flow in it. You just flow in it. And so Jesus, Yeshua, God already created the stream. You just have to get into the slipstream and get into the current of energy. You don't have to fight anymore. You don't have to struggle anymore. You can move at the same velocity as the Christ. This is you because you are in a slipstream and everything is smooth, easy, and successful. You don't have to fight, but you got to stay in the slipstream, fam. I know every now and then we might come out the slipstream, but you got to go back in because you got to be careful. If you come out the slipstream and you stay out too long, you're going to be in somebody else's slipstream. You got to stay in yours. You got to stay in Christ consciousness. Christ is at the forefront of the slipstream. And he calls us, fam, to join him in the slipstream. But you can't do it if you're afraid. You can't do it if you're scared. You can't do it if you're still trying to hide. Look at your thorns. Acknowledge your thorns. Allow your thorns to crucify you. Let God use your thorns to crucify you. Shed all your weight that is burdening you. Shed all of the weight. Jesus says, my yoke is easy and my burden is light. My burden is light. I want you to consider, fam, that if your burden is not light, it's because you might be yoked to the wrong person. You might be yoked to the wrong thing. You might be yoked to the wrong thinking. He says, my yoke is easy and my burden is light. As for me, fam, I'm choosing to stay in the slipstream of Christ consciousness. I'm choosing to stay, and I don't have to fight. All I have to do is flow. All I have to do is get in it and flow. So I'm not going to find myself, and I don't recommend that you concern yourself about those who are not in the slipstream or choose to be in it. And, you know, don't do that, fam, because you're going to find yourself in their slipstream. I'm not going to be concerned about that. That's not my fight. That's not my goal. That's not my lane. That's not your lane. Because anything other than love, righteousness, compassion is not your lane, fam. So don't spend your time these days trying to convince someone to be awake. Don't spend your time trying to wake people up because they choosing to be asleep. Maybe they'll wake up another lifetime. Maybe they'll wake up another lifetime. So in these times, fam, these times that we're in now all around us, when everybody's looking for a strategy, what is a strategy for justice? What is a strategy for a deconstruction so we can restructure something? What is a strategy? Fam, I'm going to say, let your strategy be to continue to rise up. Continue to rise up. Now, I'm a Detroit Lions fan, but I'm here in Atlanta. And so when I think of Atlanta, I think of rise up. That is a theme here in Atlanta, to rise up. To rise up for us. I did a talk years ago, fam, called Ascension Intention. Ascension Intention. So let your intention be to ascend. Let your intention be to ascend. Because the energy you're spending fighting something else, trying to convince someone else, trying to expect something else is energy that can be spent loving the ones in the slipstream right with you. You can spend that energy loving. Because you know who's in control? God is in control. Spirit is in control. And we have to believe that everyone around the world has the capacity to rise up too. No matter what we see the suffering, we see all that. We have to believe that they have the capacity to rise up too. So, fam, resurrection is not just for Easter. It's not just for a Sunday. It's not just for a day of celebration. We have the day off. Resurrection is every day. Paul said, I die daily. I'm going to read this once again, fam. I am the resurrection and the life. Whoever believes in me, though he die, yet shall he live. And everyone who lives and believes in me shall never die. I mean, you can put the word truth in there. Whoever lives and believes in truth shall never die, because Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. Right? In the last part of that scripture, when Jesus said, I am the resurrection and the life and all that, he was speaking to Martha. He was speaking to Martha, who was grieving because her brother had died. She was grieving. And the last thing he asked her after he says, everyone who believes and lives and believes in me shall never die. He asked Martha, he says, do you believe this? And I ask you, fam, do you believe this? And I'll go a step further and say and ask, do you know this?
Yeah.
Do you know this, fam? Do you know this? So let's celebrate, fam. Let's celebrate the resurrection. Let's be grateful for the one who came and showed us the way shower. Let's be grateful. Let's be grateful that we're shedding the skin and releasing all the weight of what has burdened us. And let's stay connected to the truth and stay in the slipstream and invite others to be in the slipstream with us.
Yeah.
The only way we can invite is by becoming it.
Mm.
Is by becoming a fam. I thank you. I love you. I bless you. I honor you. I celebrate you. Share this message wherever you are. You can YouTube. Someone will watch this message later. But let go, y'all. Let go. Let go. Release. Become empty. You let go and let God. I know we say it all the time, but it's true. Let go, man. Keep rising. Keep ascending. God bless you. This is the time for our giving. We're not trying to purchase salvation. We're paying it forward so it can be paid back. We're paying it forward because we know that divine love in and through us blesses and multiplies all that we have, all that we give, and all that we receive. Stop looking at back then. Crucify your past. Crucify yesterday. Crucify who you were so you can become who you should be and who you can be. Fam, give to this ministry today so we can continue to do this and continue to invite others to do the same. You can give through Giveify. You can go to CashApp. You can go to the website. Give. Not out of obligation, but just give. And whatever you give will be multiplied, taken, and returned to you. Believe that, fam. No more worry. Let God have his way. Fam, I bless you. I love you. And let's hit on the prayer of protection. Let the light of God surround you. The love of God unfold. The power of God protect you. And the presence of God watches over. Wherever we are, God is. All is well. Let go and keep riding. Go your way, rejoicing, man.
It's been a long time coming. Long road that I'm running. They can't take it from me. I done put that work in. They tryna play me like a dummy. It always be the ones you ain't think gon' switch on you. They ain't loyal. They ain't friends. They try to say what's mine. I still win. Yeah, though I walk through the valley, the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Try me if you wanna, I'm covered by the grace of God. Glory to the King. Glory be to the King. For God so loved the world, he gave his son. God so loved the world, he gave his son. Whosoever believeth in him shall not perish, but live forever. Who shall believe in him shall not perish.